there's been quite a few rock drops recently that we haven't talked about. Cage the Elephant dropped an album.
Wait, Weighs Blood.
Yeah, Way is Blood. Um, I wanted to talk about this Local Natives one because Local Natives was a band that I've really enjoyed on the download. I don't think we've ever talked about them on the pod, really. Very indie band, rest very much on their harmonies. They I wouldn't say that anything stands out in particular about their sound. Like I said, it's very indie, but their harmony is really what drives them because they almost exclusively on their first two albums rested on every chorus being around a harmony. Hummingbird, Gorilla Manor, their first two drops, really well received. And then Sonic Youth dropped in 2016. That would have been right when the pod was starting. Actually, I'm not sure if we were even recording at the time. No, we were, but just kind of went under the radar. I think what was disappointing about it was this band that grew off them being so cohesive as a unit seemed to really move away from this and almost made too mainstream of an album where they were not so much resting on their harmonies and made more generic sounding songs where the lead singer Kelsey Ayer was really at the front, and the songs still sounded pretty good, and I actually enjoyed quite a few of them off there. Things like Dark Days or Coins, I think, were probably the highlights. But Violet Street dropped, and it seems like a real return to form for the band because not only does it, I think, have a more distinctive sound than they've had music-wise since probably Hummingbird before Sonic Youth, but it's a lot more harmonies but they also infuse that mainstream sound where Ayer's coming above the harmonies and not falling into the music, but actually rising above it in a really great way. I don't think that this is by far their best album. That probably is their first one, Gorilla Manor, which, I mean, shocking. A rock band's first album is the one that's most heralded and widely loved. But I still think this is a really good album. Probably the two songs I would say, if you really want to get into it, start with When Am I Gonna Lose You and Megaton Mile. Megaton Mile especially is one of my favorites. It has this like thumping bass line and this really great guitar solo near the end. And I think if you want to kind of know when Local Natives at their best, I would listen to this only because they have their style where they have those harmonies in the background, but Kelsey Ayer really is rising above in this one, and I think he really stands out as a really great piece in that song. And lastly, Someday Now is another song I'd recommend off the album. We already added one to our Spotify playlist, which is Nowstalgia Best of 2019. You can find that on Spotify. Hit that follow button on there. But have you ever listened to Local Natives, Dave?
I think I have. I mean, I feel like I've just seen their name on like mid-level festival billing for years now.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you, I mean, do you think they've just kind of peaked at as far as popularity, as scale, given the kind of rock music they do make?
Definitely. I just think that they aren't. I don't know if this is really the right way to put it, what I'm trying to say, but they aren't as interesting as bands like Tame Impala or other bands who do similar things to them, only because they are very like soft indie rock and very indie rock. But that's a niche now. If you want to become a rock band with more acclaim, you have to be able to infuse a more mainstream sound with whatever your unique twist is on it. Think about 21 Pilots, who went almost too much they went almost too far into that. Like, I'm just trying to make pop hits. And then on their most recent release, Trench, I think we both enjoyed it because it pulled more into their style while also keeping that mainstream sound. And I think Local Natives hasn't really found that good middle yet, so to speak.
Right.
So I would definitely recommend Violet Street, Local Natives' fourth album.